Time for science. It's just Sprite, I swear. The question of the day is, would I colonize Mars or would I just explore the planet? To put it simply, colonization versus exploration. That is the question. I think a good place to start is to look at the pros of both options. Colonizing Mars would give us way more resources as humans. We would have more space to live. We'd have a backup Earth if there was an apocalypse. We'd have testing sites for nuclear bombs. We'd have a deeper understanding of science, and it would be really awesome. However, simply exploring would be way easier. It'd be way cheaper. It would improve science understanding as well. It would take much less time to do. People wouldn't die as much. And we could use it as a space attic. We could store things there without having to live there. We could also test nukes. We could appreciate Earth more because of how harsh Mars is. We could take resources back to Earth, and it would also be really cool. After tallying up the votes, I think this point goes to exploration. Now to look at the cons. Colonizing Mars would be very difficult. It'd cause a lot of death. It'd be very expensive. We're not certain it would even work. Plus, it's kind of unnatural if you think so. The cost is not worth the benefit. The radiation would also be very hard on our technology. The UV would be deadly to us. Communication would be very difficult. We could contaminate Mars or vice versa. And I think the cognitive dissonance of being a Martian baby would be really traumatic. The cons of exploring is that we would have less knowledge than if we lived there, and there would be no Earth backup. But this one's pretty obvious. I think the point goes to exploration. So the winner is exploration. That's what I think a way better option would be. But why, you may ask? Well, that's a stupid question. I just went over everything. Anyways, obviously the main reason is that exploration passed my very harsh trials of pros and cons. And personally, I'm all for scientific innovation and testing the limits of our knowledge, but I think it's not far-fetched of me to say that I think that we as human beings should stay on the planet that we were created on. Plus, there's a reason we don't survive at the top of mountains and at the bottom of the ocean. We're just not built to survive there. We can explore, but there's a reason we don't live there. Anyways, this is my drawing of Perseverance, the lovely rover who found our Sapphire Canyon sample in Jezero Crater on Mars, which I think is the coolest space news that's ever come out of the news. I'm going to keep this brief, but I definitely think that the Sapphire Canyon sample is proof of life on Mars, and I think that there's also archaic life living under the surface of Mars that keeps a stable temperature from the resonant heat from the core. But I'm not a scientist, so I don't know. So how would I do the exploration? I think what we've got going now by sending rovers there is a pretty good option, but I think if we had a dedicated Mars rocket and we loaded it up with all sorts of robots, rovers, cameras, all the works, flew it up there, unleash the hatch, and just let loose an army of robots to take over Mars, get all the information we need, and then just bring it back to us. It would be like we have eyes and ears everywhere, but we wouldn't have to risk the lives of all these scientists or innocent children or whatever we're gonna do. And hopefully the robots would befriend the aliens and we would have a lovely relationship. However, on my own time as a non-scientist, I think that I'll just look at Mars through a telescope and imagine my own reality of what's going on up there. With all that being said though, I would totally go to Mars. Anyways, that's all the information I had, so hopefully I get a good grade on this. Thank you for watching my video. Well, I guess you have to, it's your job. And that's all. Bye.